Please help me welcome our speaker. Returning to our virtual stage, Danielle Wallace. Danielle is the CEO and Chief Learning Strategist at Beyond the Sky and Beyond Role Plays, and we are so happy to have her back with us. Danielle, the session is all yours.
I'm so excited to see everybody here today. We are going to have some fun. So as mentioned, I'm Danielle Wallace, the Chief Learning Strategist of Beyond the Sky. And I'm seeing here through the chat a bit, and I encourage everybody to actually go through and answer the Menti as well, which we'll be getting to. Um, because we're all here for a common reason. You know, we're all here to drive learning. And all of us know that training is a big investment. But how often does it deliver real results? So today we're going to be looking at the 5 most common training mistakes that cost performance and our reputation as learning and development professionals. So again, if you haven't looked through the Menti, please do that today because we'll be talking about the 5 costly mistakes that we see within the world of learning and development and how to fix them. Um, so I'm seeing here through the chat, seeing some great teams, and I'm also privileged to have a great team. You've likely spent time and money on training only to see employees struggle to apply what they've learned. So that's what I do. We solve that. Our solutions are designed for impact, ensuring your employees apply the skills on the job. So I've got 20 invisible team members behind me today. We're a huge fan of the great products and tools from ELB. So ELB has got great stuff. Highly encourage you to try and then use their various products and tools. With that as our lens, we're actually looking at the ways we combine the proven marketing principles with modern learning to create training that sticks. So some of that comes through in what we'll be sharing today. And we've been able to share that with the top organizations across North America and the work that we do. I'd love to hear from you. Maybe in the chat, if you haven't yet already, write down how big is your learning and development team and how many people do you support? So I'm seeing as you're putting in here, like Tori, 2 people supporting 3,500 team members. Applause, applause for this. Constance, 1 person supporting 3,000 people. Wow, applause. Um, we have a wide variety of different team configurations and structures, whether it's Paul, who is the learning development team, or Heather, that is as well, supporting 500 people. Diane, likewise. Oh my goodness. We have a lot of very mighty mighty people on this call who are creating great impact no matter what size organization or your configuration, whether it's from Ben to Tina. And this is important because this allows me to tailor our session so I can get a sense of how you can manage your time. So again, encourage you to put that through into the chat. And while we do that, I'll take a peek at some of the Menti results that this Menti code will be used persistently throughout this today. So I encourage you to answer it now, but also, keep us up and handy. Many of us have some small teams. Oh, it's missing some of the scores. The major things coming through here happen to be on the time savings and the time challenges, which I'm seeing right here. So that's where we'll be focusing really today is our abilities to drive results even within our limited time and budget. So I've seen the great mighty teams we've had here so far, and you shared some of that work that you're doing. And you've also shared the pressures of a lack of time, a lack of resources. Let's think now about your own journey. How did you really learn to excel in your role? Put this through in the chat. Like, how did you learn to get good at your job? How'd you learn your job? Dawn is saying practice. Yeah, yeah. Heather speaking about trial and error. I think, and Alice speaking about learning by doing. Many, Michael, Rob, are echoing this idea of learning on the job, whether it's practice, getting feedback, trial and error. Um, and just falling into training, as Diana's saying, yeah, being that person that you end up learning on the job because people are going to you for those responses. Um, and Constance, again, that team of one, became a pro by doing the job for 8 years. So it's that doing, that learning, that doing, whether it's, oh my gosh, mentorship, as Hamza is saying, or through this collectively, what I'm hearing us say is this, learning by doing, learning on the job. And that's very true of our learners. So you've been keeping pace with the changes of learning your job. But likewise, the world of training itself has also changed. I remember when learning and development teams had a year to create training, which is normally in person, and we would mail perfect binders to participants. And then the participants themselves could take the full 2 weeks off work just for training. With our teams here, can you imagine? Um, like Betsy, Constance, Tina, can you imagine being able to have 1 year to create one program? The world of training itself has changed, just as you. So the world of work has changed, just as you have changed. Common, the world of work is just fast now. Just like you're learning on a job, that's how a lot of changes in the world of work have also been coming about. What we have as a collective challenge is some of these common training mistakes are rooted in that old traditional classroom approach, and you just don't have time or resources. The world has increased its acceleration. So, what I'm going to be sharing with you will help you transform your learning strategies to meet the demands of this fast-paced world. And again, we'll be using the Menti throughout the session today. So keep that handy. In particular, we'll be looking at your needs to focus your time and drive results. So I'll be sharing 5 common fallacies that are typically seen in corporate training. What I share will be controversial. It will make you think. But in a world where AI can create training slides, we as learning development professionals have an opportunity to shine and drive real business impact. So the 5 training mistakes, in essence, can be summed up as engaging, fun training that prioritizes content and checks knowledge with a quiz. Use the reactions icon if you click on the hearts. Use the reactions. If you've ever heard this is like, what makes good training. It's engaging, it's fun, we've got content, we have a knowledge check. Use the reactions icon to or the chat. Ah, yes, I'm seeing some hearts come through. Yeah, we have the opportunities to be able to drive more effective learning. And as we are doing that today, we'll have the opportunity to continue our discussion in the chat. And then Sarah, I put through the Menti code for you. So if that's this world, how can we improve? The first area of focus in becomes this myth of focusing on engaging courses. Only the course is engaging. If only it's engaging. If you ask ChatGPT or Google about training, typically you'd be told that training is most effective when it's engaging. So take a look at this. We'll take a look at this concept a bit deeper. I'll show 2 courses. The 2 courses actually have the same common goal of a training program about making strategic choices. Making strategic choices. I'll be sharing each of these 2 in sequence. So write into the chat what you like or dislike about this example. And there is audio with this.
This course is designed to be engaging, starting with learning objectives so people understand that they'll be learning about being strategic thinking. It then goes through some dynamic visuals as well as some information about what this concept means. And people can click to learn more. For example, they can read more about what it means to be a strategic thinker, what it means to be a strategic collaborator. They're able to continue this and can learn more through engaging visuals and interactions through a quiz that tests their knowledge on whether they understand these concepts and whether they understand, for example, this strategic importance. It culminates finally in a quiz that checks their knowledge and provides some added interaction means.
So start to put through the chat what you like or dislike about this course. As you start to do that, I love this. So please continue to do this. We'll actually have a comparison soon, but some of the summations of what I'm thinking is, oh, Heather, oh, maybe you guys are smart. It's a glorified read through. And yes, many people are just liking this. Oh, you guys are smart. Oh, I'm so impressed. Um, just because you're saying it's engaging doesn't make it so. The click to learn is nice, as Sarah's saying. But it's worries that people will not go into them if they're busy. At the most, people will do the bare minimum. It's good colors though. I would rather have scenarios, Heather's saying, and then in terms of reading, yeah. So, you guys are really good at this. I'll actually what people typically say is they're like, "Oh, actually, I really like the visuals. Oh, that's actually it's very pretty." Um, we'll unpack this a bit more and actually really expand it to what Heather said. In particular, it's building what Heather said. It's actually what the whole course, what these interactions are. A video, Sarah speaking, a video or an actual interactive scenario would be better. Because we're going to get to the why that's better in a moment. Contrast this to this other example,
This course,
which also has audio. Again, this is the same version of the same course. The goal is still to make strategic choices. So it's still the same goal, making strategic choices. So just think about how this compares to the last example.
the same course material is in a different structure where you're assuming the role of a character. As such, you'll have insights from your team.
Hi, I'm Alex, a market research analyst at Innovatech Solutions,
where you can get their perspectives.
Hi, I'm Asha, Product Development Lead at Innovatech Solutions. I manage the development of new solutions and
these insights can be ones you turn to when you need to make strategic leadership decisions.
An aggressive launch would push our development team to meet tight deadlines and deliver InnovaFlow at a high standard under significant pressure. This could showcase our ability to innovate and quickly meet market demand, positioning us as a leader in the region. However, the pressure on the team could lead to product quality issues.
And like real life, there's consequences to your decisions.
You've chosen a conservative strategy that minimizes risks by focusing on existing markets, ensuring stability but limiting growth potential.
These insights help you make strategic choices along the way.
This detailed approach can definitely help align the team with specific product changes, but I'm concerned it might lack the immediacy and impact that more dynamic communication methods could offer.
And ultimately provides input and scoring as to how well you're faring.
So I'm seeing some very interesting comments into the chat. Let's continue to add in like how they compare, what you like better. And what I'm actively trying to do is I'm actually trying to address your own critical thinking. So I'm actually, just like you learn by doing, you said that already in real life, and that's what a lot of this entire session is about. You right now are literally doing that. So we're being meta in that. So as Catherine's saying, these examples help you connect with the content more. And while yes, it's obvious these are AI videos, it helps provide that sense of what the scenario is as Sarah was speaking, you're able to choose your own adventure. So you're actually able to make decisions. And as Betsy's speaking, Betsy is saying you're able to have those consequences. So it gives you choices, you get practice. It's intentionally designed to pull you into the situation. Same content, like same content, but we're approaching that content in a different way. So just as earlier you said, oh, scenarios will be better. Why? Why scenarios better? Why is it be good to pull into content? That's really what I want us to be thinking about. Why is because, amidst our pressures and time in the traditional teaching approach, it's actually very easy for us to forget the goal isn't training. The goal is performance. Training itself doesn't mean the learner transfers to anything on the job. It sounds obvious, but this fallacy is widespread. I see this across the globe when I speak with learning development leaders, especially business leaders not in learning and development, and you see it all over the internet. So the world thinks training is imparting knowledge, like I did with my first example. Here's what strategic thinking is. We know better. So the goal isn't education itself. The goal isn't what sizzle we add to it. The goal is performance. So what makes a second example better then isn't the fact that, oh, we're using a video, like an AI video. You could argue actually you hate the AI videos. You could actually argue you find the second course not engaging at all. The point is, just like we said, scenarios are effective. The point is because that helps transfer us to real thinking that's on the job. The learner is more active, as Hamza is saying in the second example. And that active learning is, again, what transfers to on the job. And Sarah, you picked it up. Why scenarios are effective? Because they bridge to learning and using it on the job, just like we do in real life. So with this, the goal isn't to teach. Like our goal is not to teach. It's simply to drive performance. In this example, we were asked to create training to take associates from level 2 to level 3 to handle more types of files. But, honestly, training would be costly and ineffective. So rather than that, we proposed creating a rubric that allowed associates to know what skills they needed to go from level 2 to level 3. And their existing coaches would now know what skills to assess when moving them from level 2 to level 3. The results were phenomenal. There's a significant decrease in the error rate of those moving to level 3 file types, and we cut the time to effectiveness. Are there any non-lecture ideas that you've seen or tried that move away from what was said earlier? But in essence, it feels like a glorified blog post. Are there other examples that you've done? Yeah, that take us beyond, as Heather's saying, a glorified read-through. I need to do that. Yes, we are going to unpack, we're going to get deeper actually into what Heather is saying in terms of thinking about what engaging is. And there is, and the point of engaging is, it's, as we'll see soon, it's a cognitive engagement. So here's some other ways of doing that. Whether it's, as Sarah's saying, small group discussions and breakout rooms. Get to the why behind this is choose your own scenarios, as Heather is saying, lots of branching. Those are phenomenal. Other ways we have here, just building on the ideas you just shared, whether it's Betsy saying a scavenger hunt tied to the topic, which helps that connection to learning, or whether it's things like case studies that you've brought up already, or as Heather brought up, or learning by doing, that trial and error on the job that you spoke about at the beginning, whether it's performance supports. That becomes a very key way we can drive performance ultimately. Or coaching and facilitation, even the learning culture we create, the ability to connect with others and try and learn. And then the metrics, various metrics that we use. So these are ways that really set the foundation for what could be effective learning and avoiding some of the common fallacies that are out there. So besides this desire to make the course engaging. Another common focus I hear about is the focus on content. So I'm going to show you two different examples and let me know which would help you have a meaningful mental health conversation with your team. And think about the content that I'm delivering. So imagine this in e-learning or a virtual class. It's the same content. I start off by providing a definition. Mental illness is having a significant impairment in any one of these factors. I then elaborate and provide context. I would say it's the biopsychosocial approach, meaning that there are genetic, biological, environmental, social factors at play. Then I tell you that I'd walk you through each of these types of mental illnesses in the workplace, and I do so in sequence. Then I provide you some compelling facts for each of those 5 different types. And finally, after going through all types of mental illnesses, I'd give a quiz to check your knowledge using quiz questions like this. So as we advance in the Menti, encourage you to start to think about which approach you might like better. This is the second example here. This is a video that has, it's a clip from an e-learning course that has some audio. Again, same objectives. It's literally the same the same objectives. It was the same project. Pay attention to if it's a content-driven course or an action-driven course.
Select the approach you would like to take.
Sorry, I should have given you some context. So imagine this snippet of the course is of the same courses for the same objectives. So you're having a conversation about mental health with your team. That's the objective. Pay attention to if it's a content-driven or action-driven course, and imagine you are Chen's manager. So you're this guy's manager.
Select the approach you would like to take.
Chen, I need to speak with you over Zoom to discuss your performance. Hi, Chen. I wondered if everything is okay and if you'd like to have a casual chat on a Zoom call over coffee.
Select the option you would do next.
Hi, Chen. You don't seem yourself lately, and I wondered if everything is okay. Hi, Chen. I need to talk to you about your recent attitude and declining performance.
I'm fine. I just want to get on with my work.
So we get a short snippet.
Thinking about the best way to respond to your employee is important. Some responses are much more effective than others.
So it's a short snippet, the same program that then elaborates a bit more on these various factors. So love you to list in the chat or the Menti which one you prefer. Which version did you prefer? So as you're adding through the chat, which one you liked better, I'm seeing the results are pretty consistently on this idea of like think, try, like you were just thinking and trying approach versus a traditional training. Heather says it's a better activity format. Seems to be obvious. Yes, definitely. So there's definitely ways we can increase the challenge. But you can see this even with this intentionally fairly easy to answer questions. Like if my goal is to have a meaningful mental health conversation with my team, which one will actually get me in that direction? We're seeing pretty clearly here in your results that I'm sharing from my screen right now. I'm sharing the Menti page. The think try approach feels more of impact. And the difference in that second one is designed for a performance outcome, not to share knowledge. And the thing, as Lindsay speaks about the think try approach, there's definitely ways we can make it like it's an e-learning. So there's definitely ways we can make the e-learning accessible. What's interesting is the whole approach is designed not just to check knowledge. We're designing to meet that business goal that I spoke about in the last time. And the research shows that it does meet that business goal that I spoke to. So learners who attended the lecture format, the first format, didn't change their skills. And the skills they were learning were the wrong skills anyhow. Their takeaways were definitions of mental health, and they were learning new terminology. That's what stuck. The second group, the learners who trained with our application-focused method, successfully demonstrated learning by using conversations, by starting conversations with empathy and using positive language. So this entire approach, I mean, it's our gold standard for quality to get effective learning, but the entire approach is designed to better mirror and better link to the business objectives. And we see this can apply to a variety of different interactions. It's not just an e-learning course. In this example, in like face-to-face. So our car dealers knew the towing capacity and specs, and they knew the off-road specs. What they didn't know was how it handled off-road for real, or how the new features work. So we allowed them to learn the new features by doing. So I encourage you to reflect upon where you can have learning experiences that aren't just memorizing. Like think about where you can actually have more of that, the application and the thinking approach. So that gets us to a world where it's not just education and content for its own sake. That's why we have corporate training, and we're not a passive read through, as Heather said. Why we're not just doing blogs. Our goal is effective learning. And I'm curious to know if there's within your organization, or if you don't want to answer for your organization, you can answer for what you've seen, whether you see training that's more content driven, or not within that scale. Things you're seeing, are they more content driven, or are they more on the well, what I typically see is I see a realm where depending on the organization or depending on the industry, there's a desire to push a lot of content. Like the intent of training is to impart content, to impart knowledge. Oh, and yeah, this seems quite common if we're scoring at a 9 so far. So again, the Menti code is 37239399. We'll be using this throughout the day today. For just to be thinking about what is possible, and then where we have some opportunities. Which takes us to my next part. As we look and build upon those opportunities, we have opportunity to move away from just focus on engagement or content. The other thing I often see is that, oh, great, we need to make training fun, easy and fun. I'll be sharing with you 2 examples, and again, I'll be using the same Menti about a real course, which was intended to be fun. I'll share just parts of it, but do answer the question in the Menti as I highlight the course. It's all about difficult conversations. So I would share that by the end of this 2-hour training, which is true, you should be able to understand and apply the stay technique and the lock technique. And in the last 30 minutes, we'd role play difficult conversations with our peers. Not as fun, but all prizes. I would then start with a reflection question. What are the instances, scenarios, and situations at work that require you to consider the basic needs of your team members during a difficult conversation? This is real. I'm not quite sure what that means, but anyhow, we're actually short on time, so I'm just going to skip this reflection. I need to skip this reflection because we're short on time. So let's skip the activity. I'm going to pummel through the rest of the content. But I'd share to make this course fun. Well, we are going to keep the games and prizes. So we're going to make this fun. I've got a lot of content. As you can see here, we're going to make it fun. I got a dice. We're going to see which concept we get to explore first. So I'd give the dice to somebody. I got a 1. Okay, let's do a 1, everybody. I imagine I'd tell you all about Maslow and the drama triangle. Based on what I was telling you about Maslow and the drama triangle, I'd have you fill in this fun whiteboard. And let's choose a fun color. After we do that, I would spin the dice again. I got a 2. Okay, let's go to number 2. Oh, a fun comic. Always love that. Great, fun comic. And imagine I give you a fun quiz to help you learn the differences between the 3 sides of the drama triangle that I just taught you. And this helps me assess if you're able to identify the 3 sides of the drama triangle correctly. Feel free to use the chat. So what are you feeling as the learner? Use the chat to answer what you're feeling as the learner, and then we'll irritated and patronized. Yeah. Oh yeah. I normally get a lot more harsher feedback. I normally get like, oh my God, Danielle, it's not fun. Can you just stop? And I get the Sarah saying confused. It was rushed. Oh, Sarah, you've got the essence of this. It was rushed, and the game didn't connect with the content. Hello, exactly. That's exactly it. And Dawn's unpacking that further. The content isn't important. It is required, but it's not important. As Laura's saying, these sorts of training make me feel like I'm learning because I'm engaged, yet I walk away having learned nothing. And Betsy speaking, it's disorganized, childish. What are we learning? And David's saying, yeah, it's fun for the sake of fun. And this is where we are. So in that last example did well, though, is it made it really easy for you as a learner to just let go, listen, and mentally check out. And this was a real example. As Heather's saying, yeah, engagement doesn't mean learning. If I could just let go, just listen, I could, if I didn't pay attention during any of these teaching portion, there'd be no difference. No difference in my impact at work. No one wants to admit it, but learning takes effort. So we can still be fun, but the fun needs to be focused on the learning point. Better examples of fun would be some type of active learning or immersive scenarios that you've spoken to that allow you to even think, try, and do, as we did in the last exercises. But they still aren't easy, per se. Maybe use reactions icons in the chat if you've ever been told that training should be fun, if you've ever heard that. Or if you've been told different things like, great, let's connect this really complex topic and let's cull it to something really, really short. But yeah, we want to keep it all in. Or if you've ever secretly played training at twice the speed to learn it faster. I do that all the time. Because everybody wants a TikTok video content saying, yeah, this is difficult because learning is actually not easy. So you can't actually take an entire curriculum and distill it into something that drives impact. It's passive consumption and learning is hard. Learning doesn't necessarily need to be fun. You've said that already. And Constance is really picking up on this discussion of like engagement doesn't mean learning, and this being a discussion the last job. Saying I would keep asking, what do you mean by engaging? What's engaging? But nobody could answer. Unpacking that a bit more, if you look at just what generative AI is saying and synopsis of the entire internet, what you generally get is some of the trappings that I've been speaking to. So it's like visually engaging. It's this idea of click engagement. So instead of for learning to be engaging, it's not just about click engagement. It's about cognitive engagement. So even in that early example I shared, it was a RISE course, there was click engagement. I used that to like parse content and like, oh, make this fun. Or the dice, like it's like engagement, but it's not connected to the learning point. Cognitive engagement makes you think differently about the topic. It takes effort. So it's not even about discrete models in isolation, but it's about in real life, we use many, many models at the same time. It's quite complex. It's not just being trained. It's not just that TikTok video that Constance speaks to. It's about the active effort we have to learn. So what would you, if you had to redo my fun, arguably fun, difficult conversation course, what might you do different? What's anything you could do different? Besides me constantly tell you how fun it is. Hamza's saying, focus on value. Yeah, like the value you're providing for that learner. Hamza is saying that's a great way to reframe the entire course, your entire approach. Constance is speaking about starting with a story of why this is needed. Yeah, a story. Adding conversations. Yeah, it's a difficult conversation course. Why not actually have us like have conversations there? David's really getting to the point of giving the learners some challenge, putting them at risk. Sarah's unpacking that further about asking participants for examples of conversations that they've had in real life and what others would say. And all of this really allows, as Betsy's saying, is a focus on skills and allowing practice. The practice could take many different forms. This is even an e-learning example. So this example I'll play for you. We use at the beginning of a course to help drive the mental thinking that was needed. This is a scenario where we're priming people with this a fairly difficult situation, and both answers could actually seem right. It's quite hard. It's nuanced. Don't know where it is. We're doing that in a way to help people think about what they would actually do and if they're right or if they're wrong, which is maybe more likely to be wrong in this case. And we're using that effort to have people then think about, okay, what does this learning mean to me? Like where did I go wrong? What can I be learning from it? So even within an e-learning example, we can still have this type of effort to not just be teaching with a quiz at the end. As Heather's saying, yes, soft skills usually fall flat for effectiveness because learners only learn models and concepts and don't get the chance to progressively apply what they've learned until it happens in real life. And then even adding on that in real life, it's more complex than even just one discrete model. So absolutely. You guys are really good at this. So it's often paired with content-driven courses is a knowledge check. So put into the chat if you've ever, ever taken a course or been told a course is the best practice to add the knowledge check at the end. So add to the chat if you think, yes, I needed to have the knowledge check at the end. That's my like gold standard there. Oh yes, I think all heard that. Teach, then test, and a synopsis. So pay attention to this course for how quiz questions are used in this course about conflict resolution.
In this engaging publicly available course, you're able to explore how to resolve conflict in a more positive way. Note how you're engaged with being able to assess and think. You're engaged by learning about the different ways people approach conflict, whether it's through avoidance, whether it's through bargaining. And of course, you're able to have a quiz to check your understanding. Pay attention to what this is checking and what skills are being delivered. You're able to engage further and have some nice engaging clicking activities to look at the 5 steps, and then take a short assessment to check your understanding. And it's followed with the ability to be able to check your understanding. And with that, you're able to learn about some of the differences of conflict.
I think you may know where this is heading. So how are chat questions used in that interaction? Lots of text. Heather's summing it up. A knowledge check. So we're checking knowledge, not skills. And Sarah's getting to, yeah, we're using questions as a knowledge check. And let's think about other ways we can use questions in training. Feel free to write these into the chat and I'll play another example that unpacks this a bit more. So, because ideally it'd be like, what if we could not just have to use questions to check knowledge? as Sarah and Betsy are saying, what if we could have learning by making meaningful choices? So what if the questions were to learn, the learning by doing that you've already spoken to me about, instead of a remedial knowledge check? And it's how they're saying knowledge is the lowest level, so that's why stakeholders think it equates to doing the job. And we get it here. This is an amazing audience. It is frustrating once you understand this. In contrast, look how questions are used in this example. This is one part of a course where people have been learning how to work effectively with their prospects. Notice now how quiz questions are being used. Still has questions.
Remember Lara? Well, you recently ran into her. She asks if you could meet about her business needs. Remember, she owns an organic foods business, is doing well, and wants to expand. Use what you've learned to engage Lara and help her realize her financial goals. To gain her business, you must answer every question correctly. Which will you do before the meeting?
Yeah, exactly. The meetings times they had available didn't work for me. And you know what? When we spoke on the phone, I didn't feel like they were listening to me. They were already suggesting solutions before we've even met. I'm not going to attend the meeting. Yeah, exactly. I have a great feeling about this meeting. We're meeting at 6 p.m., so it doesn't take time from my crazy work day. And we're planning to talk about my business plan and really think through what I need to expand successfully. Yeah. Okay, thanks. I'll let you know what happens.
So yeah, again, use the chat to think about how questions were used in that interaction. And the overall goal of this is we're actually creating a series of interactions punctuated by content, not content punctuated with interactions. So it's not teach, then quiz. It's actually question, 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 and then teach. And I think we're all getting to that essence of that, as Sarah's mentioning. We're not just parroting back information when we use knowledge check questions. Instead, everything we've been speaking about today is driving towards that learning transfer. So the scenarios you've been speaking about, and now what I'm saying is even try to use questions for the thinking, like the questions for the learning piece itself, become a really powerful way we can break free of some of the common fallacies that hinder training. But even if your training is performance-based, emphasizes meaningful effort, and uses questions, not quizzes, to support application, you may still run out of time. Ever seen if you can use the chat, if you've ever seen a course debrief or reflection cut short due to time, you can use any reactions to indicate this. In the difficult conversations DICE course I did, I actually cut the reflection time that we had at the beginning, which totally happens with that. And all of those debriefs ended up actually getting cut. So some of the things just end up getting cut. Dan saying, have I ever not seen it cut short due to time? Oh, Betsy's like, it happens all the time. Yeah, this is what it is. And it's common theme here. It's those debriefs or those reflection pieces that are cut in our effort to prioritize content within a content-driven course. When we get around that, is the intentional planning to keep the reflection and application activities, which are designed for skill application. And it means practically planning and designing to focus the learning time. So it does require intentional upfront thinking to allow for this. These two examples here, we are prioritizing the thinking and the doing. So whether it's the worksheets, we're able to actually parse out some of the nice to know information that the stakeholders wanted us to know. We're like, Great, let's put it elsewhere. To really prioritize any of the learning experience, to be really hyper-focused on what's actually the learning by doing. In this example here, it was a discussion where three people were learning by doing, and also keeping all the debriefs. In that difficult conversation, that DICE course I had, I mean, that was 2 hours. That was just the lecture part was actually 2 hours long. I could have cut it. I could have cut the theory. I could have cut the models. Those things aren't skill-based. You already said to me that a lot of times we're just at best parroting back what we've learned, but at worst we're learning a lot of models that don't drive to performance. In that course, I could have cut off a lot of the teaching and had more focus on the thinking, on the applications. You've even said it, even having people within the class be reflecting on their own difficult conversations that they've had and how they could apply this to their real life situation. That would drive a better learning outcome. Yeah, all too often, this is where we end up cutting. So besides being cut in a classroom facilitated course, reflection is commonly missed, especially in an e-learning. In this example, we integrated reflection into a RISE course that's custom coded to produce personalized printable action plans that were then collected. So all of this is helping to drive application and built into the process, the reflection time. So with that, I would say, let's take a moment to yourself reflect. Reflect upon how you have or how well you or your organization is currently designing training for performance. And be honest with yourself. This is completely anonymized. So honestly rate yourself or your team on each of the techniques we've discussed so far. Again, using that same Menti code. Whether your opportunities are, well, how well are you scoring? How well are you faring on your engagement methods? Are they tied to performance? Are they more for sake of engagement? How are learners tackling complex job challenges with appropriate support? Does your training go beyond content? Are questions used to build real-world judgment, or are they checking knowledge? Is there time for practice and reflection? Prioritizing your own reflection helps drive transfer to on the job. And as we're reflecting on this, it unearths further thoughts, even as Sarah's saying, is problems the trainees themselves don't have their time protected for training. So even training in itself gets cut. And all of these are the intentionality of not just using reflection, which we're talking about right now, but the intention of you yourself and your own organizations about where your biggest opportunities are. And Laura, yeah, we do use reflection in technical training. Oh, the last example I shared, the e-learning one, was technical training. We want to know how people are integrating this in, what challenges they see with the platform, the new system, the processes. And the bigger issue, yes, the training is part of the regular work. It isn't just this thing that's done on the side that checks it off as a one and done course, as Heather is saying. So take a look at your results, take a look at what's on the screen, and think about being able to pick just one area where you can make some more impact. And in terms of making impact, we have talked about 5 different ways you can make impact by going against some of these 5 common and costly training mistakes. I will ask you to use the Menti to mark up your priority focus based on what you've reflected upon today. So you reflected upon, and we've spoken about the opportunity to prioritize engagement over performance. No, we want performance. Is that where I need to focus? Is there opportunities to, instead of making training easy, there's opportunities really on redesigning so there's actually effort in the learning process. Or perhaps there's opportunities to focus on application, not just content delivery, or maybe using questions to support learning, not just test knowledge. Maybe our opportunities are on not having reflection and debriefs always be cut within any learning solution. So great. So add to the Menti where your priorities are. This is good. Overall, I'm seeing balance across the board. And you are a brilliant group on this. I'll leave up this Menti, so do feel free to keep answering it. And I want to help you and support you on this journey. So today we focused on designing learning that builds performance. If you like to keep exploring how technology, including AI, can build performance, we have a completely free, it's not salesy, it's just like, honestly, it's our AI plus learning and development community of practice. I see some people who are part of that community on our chat today. It's a way that we collectively are moving our industry forward, especially with AI, to ensure we're, as a whole, are continuing to ensure that as an industry, we're not making these 5 costly mistakes. Even with AI and technology, we're not making these 5 costly mistakes. So I do encourage you to join us. That link is in the chat. And as well, you feel free to reach out to myself on LinkedIn. Would love to be able to connect with you. And I want to give you a last huge thank you for your own effort and cognitive thinking that I've seen you play out today. Typically, audiences actually don't get a lot of these concepts, and I think it is through your effort that you are actually able to get it. Typically, this is difficult to hear sometimes, and people are not necessarily. I appreciate your open-mindedness to be grasping these concepts, coming with us on this journey, and being part of a way that we collectively can drive effective learning. And your open-mindedness, your willingness to grasp concepts is clearly evident in how you are grasping these. So your effort is paying off. Learning requires effort. You're doing it. And altogether, I'm so delighted that we're all part of this wonderful community where we can all drive effective learning. Thank you so much.
Hey, Danielle, I wanted to make sure you addressed David's question in the Q&A. Did you happen to see that?
I will look at that now. Okay.
The second
So
one.
good to see you, David. So David points out some really important stuff. The quick authoring tools, and we see this a bit more actually through our AI community practice, will keep tempting us to put in click engagement. So yes, it flipped a card to learn more. So it's this intentionality. So I mean, we'll still have click engagement, but we now have the opportunity to be intentional and realize, for example, it isn't just I showed an example of a course which just had click engagement. Knowing that all the tools are tempting us to do a click engagement, we can take the effort ourselves to design from the start something that's performance based. This is very, very important that David speaks to you because this is going to amplify. So we think there's a lot of this now. It is getting more so. And that's simply a function of it's a lot of it's a function of generative AI and where a lot of the world has already seen training being, we've already seen it today, training being testing with a knowledge quiz. So I love that question because it makes us accountable to continuing to exercise our own expertise in driving effective learning. And then for courses and then I should say on the flip side, what we also see is there are times where training is just for the sake of training. Often it is compliance courses. So the training, sometimes there's a performance goal, but I've also done courses where it's been like, no, Danielle, everybody is doing this already. Like there's actually no behavior change, but we need to show regulators. Okay, that's fine. Then we don't design with these principles because there isn't a performance goal. So that is the one caveat I give to that. Again, thank you so much, everybody. Looking forward to having you join on our community of practice and seeing you on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Danielle, for your expertise. I knew this was going to be a great session. So engaging. Thank you so much for everyone you participating and chiming in the chat. We appreciate you so much. And we hope to see you at the next ELB Learning session next week.